You're listening to the Why That Work podcast presented by StoryBrand.ai. If you've ever wondered why certain brands, trends, or cultural phenomena find success while others don't, you're in the right place. Every week we unpack why something worked, then give you actionable insights that you can use in your own life. Now let's dive in with your hosts, Donald Miller and Kyle Reed.
Hey, today we are talking about why reality TV works. And reality TV has been around a lot longer than you would think, at least is what I thought. Let me give you a quick, brief history, Don, before we get into this. 1948, the first reality TV episode ever came out, and it was called Candid Camera. 1948.
I don't remember. I was obviously not alive in 1948, but I remember people remembering Candid Camera. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Remember
it was
when?
like groundbreaking. Yeah.
1948. Fast forward to 1992, which I hope you remember. The Real World. Did you ever watch The Real World?
No.
So The Real World was, let me read you their tagline because I think it's pretty good. This is the true story of 7 strangers picked to live in a house, work together, and have their lives taped. And they need to find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real.
Conflict.
1992, the first kind of what we would think of reality TV today came out. What's so fascinating about that is I love that, the real life of these people, you called out the absurdity, and everything was rehearsed. The only thing real was they had
is that true? They rehearsed it?
It wasn't even rehearsed. It was all dramatized. It was like, hey, we're going to do one-on-one interviews. This is really, like every reality TV show now, they have the interviews with the producer.
Yeah.
That was popularized in 1992 by The Real World. But inside those interviews, they were just creating drama. Yeah. So it was like, hey, you'll never believe what Don said about you.
There was a guy, I can't remember, he was on The Bachelor, and he was like runner-up or something. I cannot remember. He came to our house, and I feel bad, but I can't remember. And he was telling us stories, and he said there was a guy on that season that they kept showing him in certain light, and they were trying to convince the public that he was gay, but he was not gay. And he had no idea it was happening. He had no idea that they were running with that storyline while they were filming it, because they saw this angle of okay, let's just keep trying to make him look gay. Can you imagine actually coming out, coming off of that season and then going back to the, because they film it all, and then you go back to the real world, and then 6 months later it shows up on television, and he signed some waiver. And they were able to do it.
Well, that's the thing.
I just say that to illustrate, reality TV is not reality.
It's not real. And, we see that rise in early 2000s where you have shows like Survivor, The Bachelor show up, The Real Housewives of X City, The Kardashians.
Well, The Apprentice.
The Apprentice, absolutely. I mean, you could argue.
You know what? I keep thinking I haven't watched reality television. The Biggest Loser. I watched that.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, that was reality television.
Yeah, so much of TV now today is reality television.
Yeah.
And it's very fascinating. It's funny that we use the word reality, and yet my view of reality TV is that they use the most extreme places of drama, violence to some degree. We're going to conflict.
Bad boys.
Yeah.
What you going to do?
Money, excess, fame. And it's all wrapped up in this idea of real, and nothing about it is.
It's more real. Like exaggerated TV, exaggerated reality TV is what it should be called.
Exaggerated,
which we did an episode on stories. This is what's fascinating to me.
Yes,
because people say, well, the movies work one way, reality television works another way. It actually doesn't. There's the overlay are the elements of story. Somebody wants something, they experience conflict, and they overcome the conflict in order to get it or not get it. So if they get it, it's a comedy, which is a literary term for happy ending. And if they don't get it, it's a tragic ending. And what you'll see with reality television producers is it's almost like they've got, index cards, and they're saying, okay, Barbara wants to marry the Bachelor, but we got to have conflict.
Yep. Got to introduce the conflict.
That's right. So what's the conflict for Barbara?
Right.
It's like, well, he's from a big city and she grew up in a small town, and they're sitting there going, okay, I think we can play that up. Yep. So ask her these questions.
Yes. Or they bring in another character who's trying to steal that person.
That's right.
And that person will never make it to the end, but for about 4 episodes of The Bachelor, you're going to be like, can you believe it? Yeah, that was one of the notes I wrote down was reality TV plays off of the things we love about story. They have perfected the production of story in what we call reality, and it is provided.
Well,
it's
and
just a narrative.
every good documentary is that way. I watched the documentary on Xi Jinping recently, and you could see it. You could see it. Well, Xi grew up in a home, and Xi's father was actually tortured by Mao Zedong, and now Xi is becoming the next Mao. It's really weird, but even a documentary can't necessarily tell you what happened because what happened was boring.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They actually have to plug in,
Yep.
well, here's the conflict, and you're waiting for the conflict.
Story, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So why reality television works is because it's not reality the way you think it is. It's still a synthesized, summarized, if you will, exaggerated, dramatic version of reality because that's what human beings respond to.
Which is why viewers, including myself, I watch reality TV.
What do you watch?
Different Survivor. We like Survivor. We'll watch that. But there's all kinds of different forms of reality TV I've watched in the past or even today. Big Brother. We used to watch Big Brother a lot. But it's interesting that they use the power of that to almost, we use reality TV as a form of escapism, right, from our daily life, because the truth is daily life can be boring.
Yeah.
And we need that place to go, oh, that's daily life for them, but it's way more exciting. It's more exaggerative. I almost like, and again, I admit I watch reality TV, so I'm in this category, but it's almost like the people who watch professional wrestling. They know they're in on the ruse. It's fake. They know it's story.
I do
they
not
disappear.
understand that. I really don't. I don't understand. And I hate to say this because I have friends who love it. And by the way, if my fishing buddies, if the Lions wanted to go to a giant wrestling event, I would be in.
All in.
I'd have a beer in my hand.
Yes.
I'd be screaming.
And escape all, or
but
release
at the
all
same
belief,
time,
right?
I don't actually understand any of it. I don't understand. And it's almost like, this is what's really fascinating, is that reality television has turned into reality to some degree. I mean, when you even look at the American political system, it actually mimics WWE now, where people are like, well, we don't actually care if they're telling the truth. What we like is drama.
Yep, that's right.
We like a good guy and a bad guy, and that guy's awful, and our guy's beating that guy, and it's become, and I think I blame the news.
Yeah.
I remember I took a year off from television. This is interesting. I took a year off from television, 20 years ago, and I remember turning on the television after 1 year of just not watching any screen, and I was shocked at how dramatic everything had become. I mean, the drama on television intensified by 500%. Maybe it's because maybe I didn't remember, but it felt like in this year everything. And I remember turning on CNN and seeing breaking news.
Yes, breaking news.
And thinking, holy crap, we've gone to war.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, what in God's name has happened here? Yeah. And nothing had happened.
And now it's like, breaking news, President Trump set to address the nation, like it's used
about
for everything.
A tariff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That point I was thinking about is there's something about the boringness of life if we were left to just sharing the news or sharing just someone's day-to-day life would not work as far as entertainment. And so to think that we could just leave that up to not making it in an entertainment way, people would watch is not true.
Do you think that, I agree with you, that they make it as enticing as possible, but I remember when I lived in Portland, it must have been like a college radio station or maybe sort of an NPR kind of station, but I would wake up and drive to work and I would turn on this station, and the whole morning show on this station was a guy would get out of bed. He's there with his girlfriend. He would get out of bed. He would drive down to the station and he would call her.
Yes.
Like they were just in bed together.
Yeah.
And he would call her. And that was the morning show, was him talking to her. They never talked about anything interesting, but I was glued to it.
You're in.
Yeah. And so, do you
is
know
that
how like
voyeuristic or what? Why do you think
it is voyeuristic? Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, my question is, what are human beings?
What do we want about
now? There's all these videos on YouTube that have 20 million views of little children unboxing a toy.
Why?
And other kids will sit and watch that. And I think our version of that is reality television.
Yes.
That's what it is. We are watching the adult version of a kid unwrapping a toy.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing is like I kind of convinced you to do this episode because you're like, I don't really know what, but your premise is I don't watch reality TV. And I'm like, Don, that's not true. You do watch reality TV. You just watch it on YouTube. You watch someone restore a car. You watch someone, you've talked about this.
Wheeler Dealers is my favorite show,
or
which
what's
is
the
reality
episode
television
you watch
about
with
restoring cars.
the family in China you and Betsy watch?
Oh, well, yeah, there's this lady who cooks.
Yeah, that's reality television.
That's
you
all
just
she
don't
does is she
realize
cooks.
it. And so here's what I found fascinating about this. The people who are creating content today were shaped by the reality TV of the past. And what I mean by that is it used to be we would watch television of other people living their life. They very rarely broke that third wall or whatever you call it with the camera where they would interact with the user. Now today, people have been trained on all the ways of elements of entertainment through reality television back from the 2000s. And now they've translated that into YouTube. And so they have now broken the wall, though, of making reality connected with the audience. So they talk directly to camera, they include you in, but they use all the powers of reality TV with hooks, entertainment, fast pacing, over-exaggerated moments, and all the stuff we watch
visual nuttiness.
All the stuff we watch on YouTube is whether it's the extreme of professional wrestling, the conflict of that, or the excess of fame and drama. It's all based in what they learn in reality TV, and that's why we watch it now. That's the new form of reality TV.
The thing that happens in movies is the highs are much higher than they are in reality, and the lows are much lower.
Okay.
And I think what's happening on Instagram and YouTube and all that kind of stuff, if people have learned to sort of exaggerate what's going on in their lives, or find the parts of their life that are high that are very high or very low, because the human beings are just attracted to that. It's interesting to me. I still don't know that we have an answer to the question of why do human beings want to watch other human beings be human? Why is that? I have no idea. There was a guy that I lived with there was a house we called Graceland in Portland. There were like 6 or 7 of us. He would watch Jerry Springer. Yeah. Now, reality television, The Bachelor especially, Jerry Springer, any sort of what I would consider, and gosh, people are going to be so mad at me because they're going to think I'm insulting them, and I don't mean it this way. However, I call that white trash television. Yeah. And what I mean by that is people who are not high achievers sit and watch this stuff. Now, the most high-achieving person I know, Will Guidara, loves The Bachelor, so he's going to call me and he's like, what are you talking about? But there's something, and when I asked him, how can you watch this? Like, how can you, I'm literally not even like insulting you. How? Because my blood starts to boil. I have this extremely strong desire to disassociate. It's almost like my identity is being flushed down the toilet as I watch this, and I can't be somebody who watches this. Yeah. That makes sense. There's a cringing. And he said, no, it's when I watch these people on Jerry Springer, it makes me feel like I've got my life together. Yes. So you identify with that? No,
totally. One of the things I wrote down, why does reality TV work, is because it's safe. And what I mean by that is you can watch someone else live a life that maybe you either want to have or don't want to have, but you can be the viewer and you don't have to do any of it. So you can provide.
Are you living vicariously?
Yes. Yeah. You are getting all the reward without having to suffer the consequences or the risk. Yeah. It's safe. Reality TV is safe. I like to watch Survivor, but I don't want to go 30 days without eating. So I'll watch that and enjoy that, but I don't have to deal with it's almost, it really is consumerism at its finest.
Yeah. There is something about, I remember when I was in high school, we had a teacher and somebody tripped and fell. And, they got up, whatever. Some of the class laughed. Some of the class got up to help them. My teacher, I'll never forget this. She stopped the class and she said, there were 2 reactions to what just happened. One was laughter and the other was empathy. And she said, those are the 2 kinds of people that exist in the world. And you need to understand that the empathetic people are better than the laughing people. I mean, she said that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. My theory on the O.J. Simpson trial and court TV and some of the more voyeuristic, certainly Jerry Springer, cops would fit in this category.
Oh yeah.
Is the people who are attracted to that are the laughers.
Okay.
They enjoy watching other people suffer.
Yeah.
And sort of have their lives destroyed. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm an very, very strong empathetic. I'm not saying one is better than the other, by the way, because I don't agree with my teacher. I think there's a place but basically it's a masculine view of the world versus a nurturing feminine view of the world. It's kind of how that works. The truth is we're healthiest when those two views come together and you don't get too far in the zero empathy, that's psychopath, or too far into the nurturing where you're just a wimp.
What was the show, or there's some kind of thing where it's like check in and check out? Like, what was that? Do you remember? You ever hear that?
No, I can't remember.
Someone will know listening to this. I don't remember if it's a show or there's something. That was their tagline. It's basically like check in to check out. And there's something about that, about reality TV, about television maybe, or entertainment in general, is I'm going to check in, I'm going to, partake in this drama so I can check out of my daily life.
If you don't communicate clearly, all your emails, your website, social media posts, everything you're communicating will be ignored. StoryBrand.ai is like the world's best communication expert writing it for you. Imagine having the world's best communicator writing your tagline. Just type in the name of your company, answer a few prompts, and voila. Hey, that's a good one. Use it to write your social media posts, website wireframe, emails, lead generating PDF, product or service descriptions, anything you need for your business. What would happen to your revenue if every word that left your business was crystal clear and worth paying attention to? StoryBrand.ai is your competitive advantage, so you'll say it clearly. Try it right now and let us write your custom tagline for free at StoryBrand.ai. And now back to the show.
How can people who are listening to this podcast use the elements that, because we're talking about reality television, we're talking about something that attracts humans' attention. Yes. It's massive, yes. Whatever it is. Yes. And so my question is, how do you actually use it to be a better leader? How do you use it to build your brand? How do you maybe use it to, like I could see me pulling out an iPhone on a family vacation when Emmeline's like 7 and just saying, we're going to do a 5-minute documentary about this vacation and teaching her what would make that documentary interesting. Well, there has to be conflict. Yep. Well, what's going on in conflict? Well, yes. There has to be some sort of objective that we all have. What do we actually want? And by the end of it, she might actually understand the way story and story structure works because she had to actually take this family vacation and synthesize it into a 5-minute narrative. Mm-hmm. That to me is really powerful. Yeah. But you see brands doing this a lot.
Absolutely. There's all these kind of brands out there, or personalities, or I think about YouTubers, or like different, people we look up to. And the false sense that I think a lot of people do is they think, I'm going to start filming myself and instantly become famous. Do you know, like, again, my past life, I used to do freelance consulting and contract work. How many times I'd meet with artists and they go, now, I'm willing to do this, but I really don't want to like get famous. And I would just sit there and like in my head laugh, because I'm like, you're the furthest thing from, like, you think just because you make a piece of content, you're going to be famous. Mm-hmm. Like, that's great. Like, but that was what they associated with. The principles of what I see today is the places that we tune into, the stuff I watch, the things we're attracted to are people who've developed characters and personalities over time that we connect with. So the gateway is the product. Let me illustrate this with a story. I like to watch golf YouTube. There's a whole genre of people who have channels that play golf. Okay.
They play golf or they teach golf?
They play golf. Teaching golf used to be the thing. It's not anymore. That you don't see that very often. It's now playing golf. You're watching other people play
on YouTube.
Golf. Yes. It started that way. Do you know the natural turn they had to make to keep people watching?
What?
Introduce personality. So there's a group of guys that I know of. There's 5 or 6, there's a random amount. They used to just play each other back and forth. That channel took off when you started to connect with the different personalities and they started setting them up. And the channel changed from go watch us play golf to now you see 15 minutes on the front end of them getting ready to go play their round of golf. because
I cannot imagine this is interesting.
It is. It's all reality television. It's all personality driven because you're connecting with the different guys. You want to watch them do their things. One of the biggest media brands out there now is Barstool Sports. People try to replicate Barstool Sports as far as like, we're going to have podcasts, we're going to do all this internal. It'd be like at StoryBrand if we're like, hey, let's have an internal podcast about the inner workings of our office. Not very many people are going to watch that. But if we tried to replicate Barstool, that's what they do. But
what does Barstool do?
It's all entertainment. They're just a sports.
But what does that mean? What does it mean it's all entertainment?
They're a sports media blog. They
I
talk
understand,
about
but why is it interesting?
Because of the personalities of the people.
So how do they develop those personalities? What do they do
first off,
to make us like those people?
They hire crazy people
do they really?
Who have conflict.
We're not doing that.
No, we're not. But again, it's that whole idea of that you watch and you go, I want to replicate that. And you think, oh, okay, great. Well, let's get some cameras in our office and
so
we'll film that.
You try to add. So on this podcast, let's do this as an experiment.
Okay.
How would this podcast become more interesting using the elements of reality television?
Well, first it would take years to develop the journeys of our backstory, right?
I disagree.
So we'd have to.
I disagree with you.
Do that,
but I disagree with you. I think you're wrong, and I actually think you're a terrible person.
I
for
wish I had some water. I would throw it at you right now because I know what you're doing. That is true, but it's true though.
Also, I don't. It's hard to have a conversation right now because you keep hitting on my wife when we're not on the air.
Is that what our producer told you? Because it's not true.
I'm just shooting from the hip here, man. I'm trying to make it interesting.
I think the reality, to bring it all back together, though, there is something to be said about when you're making content, when you're trying to grow a social media presence, a show, whatever it is using the power of story and entertainment to develop your brand, to connect. There is something very powerful.
I also
about
think
that.
There's something. I have a friend who will remain nameless, who is extremely wise. Like, this guy should have millions of followers, and he should have best-selling books and all that kind of stuff because he's extremely wise. He will not be vulnerable when you put a camera on him. He wants to look perfect.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. It's never worked. And he just won't be, he won't be flawed. He has to be the guy who helps the flawed person, but he won't be flawed. And his brand will not take off. And I think that's something that we can actually learn from reality television is like what we like in these personalities are their flaws. That's what we like. That doesn't mean you need to go, expose yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
But we like people who help us feel human. We like that. So let's just list it.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I know we like. The other thing we like is conflict.
Yep.
And so instead of saying, we've got a Valentine's Day sale, say, we got into an argument in our office about whether to discount this that much, because this is a crazy discount. And we've got people actually mad at us for, something like that might work.
One of the best marketing campaigns last year was this brand. I can't think of the brand of it now, but basically they ran this play where this intern or this worker was going to get fired if they didn't get to X amount of followers.
Wow. Okay. Explain that.
Yeah. Well, now you're putting me on the spot, but it was
like it wasn't like shoes or something.
Yeah. I wish I remembered the brand. It would take a minute to figure it out, but there was a whole thing where that was the marketing angle. So it introduced the human side.
It introduced an intern.
And that if we don't get to this number, my boss is going to let me go. And then they kept going with it.
But it was a contest. I remember this because the contest was this intern said that I can get 100,000 new email subscribers.
Yeah, that's right.
And instead of actually saying like, here's a piece of value to get it, the whole angle was, I'm going to lose my job unless you give us your email address and download this lead generator.
And that's
follow us.
Follow us. So what I'm hearing you say is there's the human element, the authentic side.
There's the vulnerability. There's also the story hook.
Okay.
Something bad is going to happen unless we accomplish X.
Massive.
Yeah.
Yes. And people love, you can take the idea of the voyeuristic side. People love to watch someone else go after something.
Let's play this out. Let's say we have like a jewelry brand.
Okay. Yeah.
To use the aspects of reality television to sell more earrings, you might say something like, if you don't nail the anniversary present, it's probably the end of your marriage.
Yeah.
Now that's sensational, right?
Yes.
That's why
The urgency, though.
X
is there.
Jewelers has come out with this line of anniversary, because God knows if you don't get this right, there will be, right? And then you could actually just say, here's Jim. Jim is kind of a moron. And you know what? It would work.
It would absolutely work.
It would absolutely work, because people are attracted to drama. They're attracted to, so but let's, it's not enough to say they're attracted to drama. They're attracted to a character who wants something, who has to overcome a challenge in order to get it.
That's right.
And they're also attracted to the fact that this could end really poorly. Really, really poorly. This is what a brand script is. Building a story brand is based on this.
100%.
Right? So you could actually go through that brand script and go, but heighten if you don't get this right, man,
right.
It's going to be, but we're here. We got you.
We got you. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot, and we can end with this. How do people play the guide in their brand around this kind of what we're talking about? How do you play the guide in kind of building up this brand, introducing conflict, introducing story? How does a brand do that?
The two things that you want to do in order to position yourself as a guide. One, you need to empathize with your customer's conflict, and you need to heighten the heck out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just like you're selling a wedding cake and you need a good wedding cake. It's most wedding cakes taste terrible.
Yeah, and
and by the way, when somebody bites into something at your wedding and it tastes like garbage, your marriage is garbage.
Yep. That's right. No, that's right.
The whole experience is garbage because you're a cheap
and
whatever. I mean, see what I'm doing? I'm heightening the drama.
And to play even off of another conversation we have about nostalgia is, and you don't want to look back and to taste a bad, like,
do you really want to be the kind of person who serves their guests crappy wedding cake?
So good.
So that's the sort of thing. But then it's empathy. It's understanding the problem and empathizing with it. We know the pressure to get the wedding cake right, and we feel it for you. So it's empathy, right? That's why we make the best tasting wedding cakes in the world. They don't just look great; they taste great. In fact, we've made over 1,000 of them. So it's empathy and it's authority.
Yes.
It's competency.
Yes.
It's we see the hole that you are in.
Yes.
And we've gotten 1,000 heroes just like you out of that hole.
Yep, that's right.
That's how you. Good. But you can't do it unless you understand the reality of your client's story.
Right. That's
and then what you want to do is you want to dramatize that. You want to do what reality television does. People, they're afraid of drama when it comes to marketing and messaging because they're afraid of being like the infomercial guy or being manipulative.
Totally.
The reality is when somebody looks at a screen, they're looking at drama that's 10x what real drama is.
Yes.
So if you come in at 4x, you're boring.
Yeah.
And so it's not that anybody's going, well, why would I ever say you could ruin your wedding or you don't care about that's all like, that sounds like really... No, it's just what it takes to actually be interesting.
And what they could do is use positive and negative stakes to reinforce that.
That's right.
The positive of doing this, the negative if you don't.
Yeah.
See, I told you reality TV works.
Well, I know it works. I just hate it.
Well, that's fair. And I think that's a fair thing, but it does work.
It does work.
Make sure you subscribe, because if you don't, maybe next
You're gonna
week
die.
I might not have
subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah, but I might not have a job if people don't subscribe.
That's actually
you did tell
true.
me that in my performance review. All right, subscribe
also,
so I can show up next week.
Stop hitting on my wife.
Thanks for listening to the Why That Worked podcast presented by StoryBrand.ai. If you like the show, follow wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're enjoying this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment letting us know what you think and what you want the guys to talk about in a future episode. Curious about how StoryBrand.ai can help you create clear, effective messaging? Well, you can try it out right now and create a free customized tagline for your business. Just go to StoryBrand.ai. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.